through a trap, just like the little hole where we make it bigger, where they come through and there would be girls in there. They count money all day. All they do is sit there and count money, and they would drop the money off, and the girls would count it and then call me and tell me, oh, he had 300,000, or he had 150,000, or whatever the number was. They would call and let me know how much.
Were the girls naked in the movies? They're always naked.
No.
Okay. Aren't they? Whenever they're in a drug house in the movies, they're always naked doing the crack with like a surgical mask. I'm like, what a fucking fun business that looks like. But okay, so you would have them. They would drop this stuff off, and you would keep a certain amount. And how far into the business is that you have, like, because we've made a tremendous jump here. Like, you started off with a $50 bag. We've probably been talking for 6 minutes, and now there's $300,000 payments coming in. I mean, how long did that take to get to that point?
That took about 84, 85.
Okay, so 3 or 4 years?
Yeah, those were my best. My best 2 years was 85 and 86. That's when they created the Freeway Task Force. It was a task force that was put together to get me.
Now, how did the cops know about you?
Well, I found out when I went to court that what happened is my neighborhood bragged about me too much.
Really?
Yeah, I had become, and I didn't know that I became an icon inside of my community. You know, people literally bragged about me to people outside of our community.
Were you driving around too? I know that the one reason you didn't get caught for quite a while was you were really smart and you didn't flash a lot of money around.
No, I didn't. I didn't like fancy cars. I didn't like fancy clothes. What I did was bought a lot of businesses.
What did you drive around?
I kind of molded myself after. You ever seen the movie Superfly?
I have, but I don't remember it.
Well, I had watched that movie and I tried to mold myself after him, you know, where you're going in, you start your business, and then you get out of the drug business. And ever since I went in, it was always my intention of getting in and getting out.
Did you ever feel guilty, though, knowing what it was? Like, man, this is killing a lot of people.
You do, but it takes a time before you start to see that. When I first started, it was like I was bringing a piece of Hollywood to South Central LA. You know, the people that was getting high off of cocaine was wealthy. You know, when I first started, a gram of cocaine was like $300 for 1 gram. So nobody in my community could afford it. I was doing it under the cover that all the people that was using it was coming from other areas.
Oh, okay. So it was kind of a rich man's drug.
Right. It was a very rich man. Hollywoodish. You know, all the stars was doing it. You know, Rick James, Quincy Jones. You know, those type of people were the people that was doing it. Nobody in my neighborhood. When I first brought it to the community, all the older guys, when I told them what I was doing, was like I was crazy. You can never sell cocaine around here.
But because they thought nobody would buy it.
They thought nobody would buy it.
And how did you find out, well, I can melt it down and sell it really cheap and really...
Well, it really didn't get it. It doesn't get any cheaper when you turn it in the crack or rock, as we call it. It's just smokable. See, the difference between smokable cocaine and powder cocaine is powder, you have to put it up your nose. Well, when you put it up your nose, it burns up your membranes. And if you're around somebody who snorts cocaine all the time, what happens is that once they start snorting their nose, it just bleed, and they can't do it. But you get the same type of rush from hitting the pipe, and you can do that until your money run out.
What's the most money you ever made in a day?
$3 million.
Really? That was a good day, wasn't it? Wow. I couldn't tell you the most I ever made in a day because I know it's not that, but man, if you make $3 million, you fucking really remember. That's the most you ever made in a day. What kind of car did you drive at that time? I know you weren't all flash.
I had about 20 different cars, you know, but only like $25,000 to $5,000 cars. I didn't buy. I think I bought like 3 brand new cars before. But I enjoyed driving like old cars where you could just ride through the neighborhood and nobody would recognize you, nobody would notice you, and you could just drive right by the police and nobody paid attention to you.
Did you have a station wagon? I heard you drove a station wagon with paneling on the side.
I did. I fixed up this station wagon and I made it look like a coroner's car. You know, the car that comes out and pick up bodies.
A hearse? The car?
Not the hearse, but the coroner's car. You know, the one who comes out.
Oh, okay. Like Quincy.
When you first get killed.
Yeah. He's a cocaine dealer, Sam! So, okay, so you made it look like
when you pull up on the side of people, you know what they do? They turn their head.
They don't want to look at a car under his car. What a genius move that is. Because there's another guy who stayed out of sight for quite a while, Frank Lucas in New York, who Denzel Washington played an American gangster, and he never flashed a lot of money. He kind of kept it, and then one time his wife gave him a fur coat, and then he went to that
run his career.
That wrecked him because they're like, "Who's this guy in a $20,000 coat?" And a guy named Nicky Barnes did a lot of heroin until he decided to be in the New York Times in a suit. Jimmy Carter saw it, and he's like, "Who the fuck is this guy in the Times in a suit?" So you were really smart to kind of stay out of...
Yeah, I never wear jewelry. I just didn't have a taste for it. I didn't want to be like I'm better than everybody else. You know, I just wanted stability. I wanted financial stability, and that's the only reason I sold drugs. I didn't sell it to hurt anybody or anything like that there. I wanted stability. You know, I didn't want to be poor and broke and hungry. I didn't want that anymore. I didn't want to be struggling.
So now by this point, the Bloods are a much bigger gang. So you're kind of standing in between these two gangs. I mean, so how do you survive in between the Crips and the Bloods without being kind of just swallowed up by them?
Well, by me not gangbanging and playing tennis, I knew both sides. And both sides knew that I wasn't affiliated with either side. You know, so they allowed me to go into different neighborhoods. But later on, you know, in the drug business, it had got almost where the gangs weren't fighting anymore. You know, it had got to a point where you could go to a Crip neighborhood and you would see Bloods standing out selling drugs with Crips in Blood neighborhoods. It's kind of like almost like the drugs almost caused the truth because now they had something to do. I think that gang activity is more prevalent when there's nothing to do.
And how many layers of insulation were there before people got to you? Like, by this point, I know there's no way street-level drug dealers are getting to you.
I had like 45 guys that worked with me, and they really tried to keep people away from me.
So what's the process you go through? Like, okay, you're the guy on top, and where do you get your coke from?
I was getting my coke from a guy by the name of Oscar Danilo Blandone, who also was my informant. He's the guy that set me up with the police. When I went to trial, we found out that he was what they call a Contra. The Contras was backed by the CIA. And it sparked this big investigation by this reporter called Gary Webb. As a matter of fact, Gary Webb's movie's coming out soon. Everybody should check it out, Kill the Messenger. They got my character in there for like 5 minutes.
Who's playing you?
Michael K. Williams.
Oh, Omar from The Wire. Yeah, I love him.
He's playing my role. He contacted me. Me and him sit down. Cool guy. I didn't like the fact that he was using my character in the movie and
really
didn't count me in.
For free, you mean? Yeah,
for free.
Even like they just kind of took your name.
Almost like the rapper did, you know. But
yeah.
At least he contacted me and told me, you know, that he was going to make sure that because they had me a fire-breathing drug dealer, and he was like, man, Rick's nothing like that. You know, you guys got to change his role. We want to show him the way that he is. He was a businessman. Because I believe I looked at the drug business as a business, not as some maniac, you know, out to kill everybody and wanted to see everybody high. I did want to see everybody high at one time because I thought that's what everybody wanted. But after I learned more about it, I changed that thought. I quit a year and a half before I ever got arrested because I started to see the destruction and whatnot and the addiction that went along with it, and I quit. But with the feds, they can get you 7 years after you commit the crime.
So, what did the Iran-Contra connection? Because I always hear, like, we had a rapper named T.I. came on the radio show that I do recently. I mean, he was talking about this conspiracy to get, like, you know, crack into black neighborhoods and kind of get people hooked on it. And we were like, there's no conspiracy. You know, it's like you start thinking, come on, that's paranoid. And then I'm hearing about your connection. And exactly how did it work with you in the Contras, where the CIA had something to do with getting crack into these neighborhoods?
Well, I don't really know much about the CIA part. I only know what Gary reported, you know, and what the... because I did an interview with the CIA director and also an interview with the OIG from the White House, and I interviewed also with Congress. I do know that Congress, the CIA admitted that they knew that these guys were selling drugs and had went to the Attorney General and asked the Attorney General could they not report it because the mission that they were trying to accomplish was so big. It was a matter of U.S. What do they call it?
National security?
National security.
So wait, the U.S., the CIA was allowing this just kind of to happen, the drugs to go in, and they weren't putting it there, but they were allowing it to happen and funneling the
That's
money.
what we believe. They were kind of like explicit, I think that's what you call it, where they were kind of like sitting at the door as a watch out while the guy robbed the bank.
Oh, complicit?
Complicit.
Okay, yeah, they kind of let it go and they didn't do anything. So you got life in prison without parole. How are you out?
I learned how to read and write.
Okay.
I learned how to read and write. I started studying the law, and I saw a loophole that the prosecutor had missed.
And then you get out of jail after... How many years?
20 years.
Oh, you did do 20 years.
I did 20 years.
Okay.
But I had life without the possibility of parole. I'm not supposed to be out right now.
Yeah, you knew...
The way I was charged.
Right.
The way I was charged and indicted, I'm not supposed to be a free man right now. Had they won everything that they wanted to win, and the appeals court wouldn't have overturned it, I wouldn't be out right now.
So what are you doing with yourself now that you're out of prison? Like, I mean, it's kind of be tempting to go back to that.
No, once you learn about the whole thing, and I'm a people person. I love people. Even though I sold drugs in my past, I love people. Right now, I'm teaching a class in South Central to kids who are following down the same path that I went down. I go around the country speaking to different people about drugs, what it's like, and that's why I wrote my book. I wrote my book so that my book could be an educational piece for everybody, so they could see how people start to sell drugs, how a person that could be anti-drugs today and then tomorrow he's a drug kingpin. Because I believe that I became a drug kingpin the day that my friend put that first 50 in my hand, and I didn't know enough to give it back to him and tell him, no, I'm not messing with it.
And the rapper Rick Ross, I know you sued him in court for the name. Would that problem have been handled differently in 1981?
Yeah, definitely.
Have you come to any kind of a good place with him, or do you not like him, or?
Well, I don't dislike him. I don't like the fact that I think what he's doing, along with a lot of the other rappers right now, is almost the same thing that I did. Because what they're doing right now is they're selling false hope to a generation that doesn't really have hope right now. They're telling these kids that you can go out and sell drugs and parlay that money into a rap career and go and sit with the President of the United States. And I think that that's a false hope to be selling people that don't have a chance. Now these kids are running out and they're selling drugs, trying to copy that, and then they're winding up in prison.
It's interesting too because he's using your name, and and I have nothing against Rick Ross. I have to live here. I'm sure he's a nice enough fella, but he's a corrections officer who's now kind of talking about being a gangster and selling drugs, and he's a big guy and he's talking a certain way, and you're actually the guy, and you're just a quiet, regular guy. Like, I would never suspect that you've made $900 million doing that.
Well, once you learn about the business, and you learn that you have to be quiet if you're really in the business. If I would have ever got on a record, when I was selling drugs and say, oh yeah, I sold 700 kilos in Noriega and we did this and that, the DA would have came and arrested me immediately.
Yeah, that probably would. That's a great point. I don't know why.
That's just what we needed.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to encourage a music career while you're in the fucking $100,000 a day drug business. The book is really good, man. Honestly, it was hard to get. We had to wait for it because we couldn't directly contact you. We had to go through a distributor, and they had to contact you. It was a whole thing, but it's called Freeway Rick Ross and the Untold Autobiography, and it's fascinating, and you're really, really honest. And I guess that's the advantage of having gone to jail and come back out, is now you can tell the whole truth and not have to worry that you're going to say something that's going to get you in any kind of trouble. And
everything is 30-some years old. All the people, I mentioned names in there that actually are real people, and I did that because I knew the statute of limitations from studying the law, that they only had 7 years.